It's live on here. Okay. Oh, hold on. Okay. All right. Let me see here. Are we live? Can I tell? Can I tell? I think we are.
I need to show off the fancy spring training cup.
Hey, is that for this year?
This is last year's, and this is the year before.
Oh, I love last year's personally. I love that stuff.
Awesome. Anyways, hello everybody. Welcome to Tech Talk with T&E. It looks like we're back on track now. We had to take a little bit of break for some, stuff that we were doing, but so our podcast is back. It'll be every Monday at 10 Mountain. Currently, Arizona doesn't change, so it'll change every 6 months. We're excited to be back. We hope you guys had a great holidays, a great New Year's. One of the big things we're going to do this year is we're going to talk about, talk with other agency owners, which is why we brought on Mr. Travis Weathers.
Heyo, happy to be here. Excited.
For sure. So tell us a little bit about your 2024.
Personally, business, where do we want to go with
all
this?
the things? We want all the details.
Well, the biggest thing I think is business, because last time you and I really had a conversation, you lost your sales guy or your sales manager guy.
Yes.
And obviously that's a huge thing for agencies, when you lose your sales guy. So tell us a little bit about that and how'd you get through it and all that kind of good junk.
Well, 2024 was quite a roller coaster when it comes to the sales. So my first sales guy, he had been with me for a couple of years, ended up starting his own agency. In my opinion, it was an unethical start because he took my clients and sold on my sales calls. And so that's a whole nother story on that. So that was kind of sucky.
Curse
unfortunately,
him.
Huh?
Curse him.
I know it really was a sad ending to that. So then I hired, after that got done, that was like March, and I found out about kind of all the details, ended up firing him. And then I started looking for, I was looking for a new salesperson. Luckily, ended up hiring somebody as like a VP of sales, kind of high level. They would still do sales, and they wanted to bring another sales rep on as well. And they ended up starting basically March, right around the time we got rid of the other person. And ultimately speaking, they did fairly well out of the gate. There was a lot of low-hanging fruit. One of the lessons is we really just didn't have somebody that knew how to leverage HubSpot and leverage mass automation. And I'm not a fan of automation when it comes to sales, but I am a fan of automating a one touch point. And they pulled a lot of low-hanging fruit. So they did really good. They had some rough months. And then we had our best month ever in July. So the most we did like $48,000 of recurring revenue in 1 month of sales, which was freaking awesome. But then it tanked after that, and then it kind of all came. So I ended up letting both of them go for a various number of reasons. One was unethical, one was performance, and so that was kind of sucky. Again, so I've had two people, and then now we've got a third person who's doing great right now, and he's kind of coming in. Lessons I learned on that, and then I'll stop this whole long depression of sales. It should be like really happy. Like I should be like really happy in a sense of like, man, I'm alive. I got legs, but like the agency life really is tough and it can really take a beating on you. So this new person in sales has done well. Lesson I've learned is for the size that we are, there was no need for a VP of sales. There was no need for management. We didn't need the management. It was too costly. They had some really good ideas. They just couldn't execute all of them. So the investment into a high paying person would have been worth it with the outcomes, but we were tracking their outcomes. They didn't hit it. So I would have we skipped management this time and went straight to just a sales rep. So
and then so basically the sales rep, once they bring them in, do they have anything to do with the project going forward, or is it strictly a handoff? Bring some new people in.
Yeah, I have them focus specifically on what they do well, which is selling. And so I don't like having them involved. Now they can build relationships, long-term relationships, just like any good salesperson will do. A long-term relationship, checking in every 3 months or whatever, because you're going to be able to get referrals and from this person. And so there's a reason for it. I don't want them involved afterwards, because their job and what they're paid for is bringing in new companies. Our number one outcome, we have 2 outcomes in the sales role, and we can break this whole down later on if you want, but is new reoccurring revenue. I don't want them, it's not their responsibility to maintain the relationship after. It's not their responsibility to maintain deliverables. It's not their responsibility to make sure the client's happy afterwards. That's a whole nother team. That's all their goals on that. So they are just responsible for finding new companies and bringing in new companies and bringing in new sales.
That's cool.
I personally like that because it just allows them to kind of focus.
Yeah, no, I get it for sure, 100%. Where did you find somebody like this? Did you have a network you went after? Did you go to a site? Was it a referral? I mean, because we struggle with the same thing of finding a good salesperson. So, and we've talked about that many times. So, by the way, do you have any second place people?
Okay, so there's 2 things I'll say to that. Number one, I think that it's a little bit of a I don't know the right word to use, but you almost got to like jump in a little bit, because like it's hard to find a good salesperson because they are built to sell. And then as SEO people, you're built to like not oversell. And then they don't know SEO. And a really good person who knows SEO is probably not selling. And so that's a unicorn. Hard to find unicorns. So I don't try to find unicorns. And so it's a really tough game. So you bring it up. Number one metric outcome in the role. So in their job description, we say you have 2 outcomes that you're responsible for, and we have a tracking. Number one is new reoccurring revenue to our quota and our target. So that's based on historical data and what we believe the business can do. And so we have that built out so they know every month whether they're hitting their goals or they're not hitting their goals. The second one is setting the right expectations, aka selling the right type of client. I can deal with underselling or overselling because we can bring them down in pricing. We can upsell them in pricing. What I can't do is I can't change a wrong setting expectation or a bad client. And so the way we track that is we have, I think it's a 95%, which ends up being like 1 out of every 20 clients in the first 3 months. If the CSM team or the onboarding person, and then with the approval of like a higher up, like the president of the company or me, go, this isn't a good fit. They're a bad client. They have the wrong expectations. And we verify on the sales call that they were set the wrong expectations. We can let them go. That client, we can let that client go. Or if the client is just like, this is too much money, and they leave for some reason, whatever the reason is, money, finances, whatever it is, in the first 3 months, that's a ding on the salesperson.
Okay.
So they have to have a 95% success rating of bringing in the right client. So it creates this nice tension that I like them living in, which is you need to sell people, but also not too many of the wrong ones. I don't mind a wrong sell every once in a while because you push the limit on it. But so 90 to 95%, 2 out of 20, 1 out of 20, you can choose what you like. So that's the 2. So to come full circle, how did you find this person? I'm scared to jump in. Part of it is you really just got to jump in and then have those metrics, because a good salesperson will sell, and they're going to sell incorrectly sometimes, but they're going to know how to kind of capture the essence of what you do in your business and bring it to the forefront. So I found this person through somebody on our company, a referral. So Madwire, Marketing 360, a lot of great salespeople there, and they have a really good. They know how to talk about SEO. They know how to talk about PPC. They know how to sell it. They may not be the person to talk expertise, but we don't want them to be expertises. We want them to take a person to go, here's a pain point, and bring that company to, all right, Salterra is the the company that's going to fix that. So I found them from Marketing 360 as a referral from somebody on our team. And then I've got a whole presentation on another time, and maybe we can do it at spring training on literally how to hire, what interview questions, what to put on the application, what to look for, how to build the job description, how to monitor and track them, and weekly, monthly meetings to have and what to go through on each meeting, kind of basically manage them and make sure that they don't come out of metrics. Because once they come out of metrics, their job's over, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
and my favorite magic question when it talks about sales is how do you structure the payments, the income?
Yeah. Oh, that's a, it's
and we've done floating things, you know, and I need to let Elisabeth talk obviously too. So, but we've done floating things, you know, base plus commission. We've done commission only. We've done 10% the first month, 2% each month after. I mean, it's just, it's such a moving target in this business. It's not like you're flipping houses and you can buy a house and give them 20% or 10% or whatever and walk away. So, and it's business to business, and where you and I both, we're business to business and niche down. So you can't just pick up the old yellow pages and start calling companies to see if they need SEO or web design. So,
acquisition is tough right now, in my opinion, and for me. I'm sure there's companies just as easy as pie, but for us, it's like it's an ongoing battle of trying to figure out the new ways to acquire someone. Your compensation question, I've been told so I'll share a little bit about what we used to do, what I've been told, and what we actually do. What I've been told is you can hire somebody, no commission or no salary, just commission only. They eat what they kill. That's how they earn, and then they're paid out well for that. And I believe you can do that. I have found it that better people need a salary, need some kind of healthy salary. So I found the sweet spot range to be roughly between $50,000 and $80,000 as a base salary for salespeople. And so that is what our range is, depending on their experience that they have. So if they don't have experience in sales, but I think that we want to take a risk on them, they're obviously going to get paid less. If they have experience in sales, they're going to get paid a little bit more. On top of that, if they have experience selling SEO specifically, I'm going to pay them a little bit more. Now you may argue, well, it's not worth it. I'm sure. You could do it a million different ways. That's how we do it now. I used to, when I first started, I would take a base salary because the guy needed more money, and I really wanted to bring this guy on, and it was a great move to do so, which ended up proving out well. But he needed more money, so I paid him a higher base salary, but he had a minimum threshold of clients he'd have to sell, or MRR he'd have to sell, and then anything after that he'd get commission. So you're you're paying commission up front. I don't do that anymore because it's way too risky on the business. But I think I can't put aside the fact that I did it and it worked out well. And so I think there's a part that you can do it. How we pay now, we have a base salary. And so we pay him a healthier base salary. And then our commission is never repeating commission. We don't do any month over month commission. I would, in my personal opinion, would only recommend that if you're doing it to help cash flow and justify. And so you're going, I can't afford you right now. So the benefit for you is I'm going to pay you, repeating commission over and over as you sell more clients. I would just have a stop limit on that. I would go, that's for a year or that's for 2 years. And then know that it's going to stop, because as you build the business, you're going to have the ability to not do that anymore. And ultimately you don't want to do that. I think you could cash flow it out over 3 months. We have a clawback where the commission gets they don't get if the commission gets removed if that client leaves in the first 3 months. So just like we track it, well, their downfall now is not just like, oh, it's a ding and they lose the commission. So it really incentivizes to sell the right clients. And then the way we commission is like a tax system. And so I can actually bring it up if you want, or I can just talk about it.
Sure. Yeah. Either way.
Here, I'll bring it up on the screen here. How do you share? There we go. Share screen. Share screen, AE, and I it may be a little bit left or right of what it is, but oops, this is that part. Okay, do you see that? Yeah. So it's like a tax system. So just so like a little caveat for anyone listening, because all these podcasts are always isolated. You don't know the context. You don't know what's going on. You don't, whatever it is, to try to bring as much reality and transparency to this. I think this is a little high. I don't think you need to pay that high. The reason why we do it, I think the bigger the brand and the more well off your brand is, and the more flow of leads, you can pay less. But because we know that sales helps so much, we know it gives us a good injection of cash, we're willing to pay a little extra and take on that risk as a company. Right now, I would say this is more risky on the company and a little too risky, but we're doing it. So the way this works is your first $5,000 of sales, you get a 15% commission on. Then 5 to 9,000, you get 30%. And then 9 to 15,000, we get 40%. But it's only within the tiers here. So you're only getting paid 40% on $9,000 to $15,000 in sales. You have a killer month, you sell 15 to 25,000. I'll pay you 50% commission, and this is commission on the first month.
That was my next question.
Yeah. So if it's $3,000 that they sold, and they at that point in that month, because I'm incentivizing to push sales. So the reason why we do it month over month is it incentivizes urgency in the sales call, because then everything resets. So they're incentivized to sell as much in that month. So if they sold $3,000 and they're now at the point where they're in the $15,000 to $25,000 range, they're going to get a $1,500 paycheck for that. But if they're in the first $5,000, they're only going to get a $450 paycheck on that.
Yeah.
So you can see the massive change on that to incentivize them to go, I need you to sell more. Now, the last thing I'll say on this is it ends up being, roughly speaking, if they are consistent around this 9 to 15,000, which is somewhere between our monthly goals, it ends up being like a 30% commission. So I'm a fan of simplification. So if you could simplify this to just go, I'll pay 30% commission on every sell, that would be a really great way of doing it. So
yeah, that makes sense.
So that's what we do. There's some caveats. There's some kind of context and color on that, but ultimately it's worked well. And new sales is a great injection of cash because we have a startup fee, and so it's helpful. And we want more clients. We want more attempts at winning, and so we want to incentivize the salesperson to do it well.
That's awesome.
I have a question. So you've had some turnover in the last year, and I know what it's like to churn employees, and it's not fun and nobody loves it. Do you subscribe to the hire slow, fire quick, or where are you at with that? Or, I mean, because if you're in a bind and you need a salesperson, sometimes you just got to suck it up and hire quick and then figure things out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you're going to force me into a box like that, I'd probably lean more towards that. Ultimately, I have hired quickly many times, and most of the time hiring out of necessity has not done well. And I would say it's not necessarily because it's out of necessity. I would say just because our systems and our processes aren't good. Like, I think I could go find a CSM fairly quick if we were urgent and needed, because we have a really good application process for our client success managers or our account managers. We have a good application process, a good testing process, good interview questions. And so we have all these people that have applied. We've obviously hired the ones we want to hire. We've got our fallbacks, and so we could go hire quickly. And I think it would actually end up going well if we hired quickly out of necessity, because we have a good system and process around that, and we have good intentionality on the hiring process. So yeah, in the bind, I was looking as fast as I could for a new salesperson, knowing that it was better for me to sell maybe a little bit less than hiring on a wrong sales, especially in the sales role. It's so critical. And so I ended up taking sales calls for a month and a half, and it was horrible. It was nasty. It drained every ounce of energy out of me, and I wanted to cry. But I took on sales calls in order to find a better person. Yeah. That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Now, so your account success managers, obviously that's the retention side.
Yep.
And that's obviously, I think, huge, and agencies don't focus on it enough.
Yeah.
And it's a double-edged sword too. So especially with going on AI, are you doing anything different in 2025 as far as with AI and all the kind of shifts that people are seeing and saying and looking at and everything, especially when it comes to the client retention side?
Yeah. So going back, I tell people my $1 million mistake where I think I could attribute very easily $1 million in lost revenue is by not focusing on retention. So when I started the company, I was so focused on sales, and retention was a little bit of an afterthought. I was like, just do good work. And we're just seeing that completely change. So this whole 2024 year was all about retention, sales and retention, but we had a massive focus, money put towards how to retain clients better. And I see how valuable that is. And it's so easy to be like, easier to keep a client than bring on a new client. It's easy to say that. And then when the reality is it's not as fun and sexy to keep a new client, it's way more fun to sell. And man, it's so true. It's like we saved, in the past like 3 months, I would say arguably we saved $20,000 of reoccurring revenue with just better intentionality. And that's not including the stuff that's kind of gray. It's like very clear. Like that's $250,000. That is a lot of money I would have paid out on sales commission in order to just have that. So going backwards, the question was, are you using like AI for any kind of CSM stuff?
Well, that, or even changing or adding to your services a little bit, becoming more than just like the SEO guy or the SEO agency, which I think we all need to look at, obviously. So just kind of, one of the things we're really going after retargeting this year, we're really going after funnel marketing. We're going after all the stuff I've been teaching forever that we never really did.
Yeah.
It's easier to teach than do.
100%.
But and I think 2025 is going to be, revolutionized that way, and I get asked all the time, what do I think the, current state of SEO and all this stuff? And I'm like, well, the current state of SEO is you've always should have been doing other stuff than just SEO. Yeah. So, and you need to adapt and change and keep an eye out and all the stuff that we're supposed to do. But yeah, so in your agency, have you guys actually had those conversations about what do we do with, precision moving over here, which we use for our move. Yeah. They're awesome. But what do we do to make sure that the relationship gets stronger with the advancements of AI and all that type of stuff?
Yeah. I'd say one thing is to really still focus on what brings them value. 2024 for us was literally like, you would ask our team and they'd be like, yeah, it's so annoying to hear. But it was like, literally, how do we become more valuable to our clients? Like to a point where it was too much. Like we were doing too much for the client, but we knew that it was needed, especially we could pull up Google Trends and type in moving companies and look at it over the last 15 years. It's worse than 2008. It's the worst the moving industry has ever been in. And we've grown 30% this year. And so I think it's partly because we have to go all in. What I'm not doing though is I'm not adding funnel marketing. We added Google Ads this year, which was big for us. So we added Google Ads as a service, which has been helpful. Hate Google Ads, by the way. And then Google Ads in the moving industry in the lowest demand for movers in the last 25 years, if not ever, in relatively speaking. Yeah, Google Ads is hard, but we have great wins on them, and it's great. So we're adding Google Ads in, and then we're looking at adding in retargeting because it's simple, it's easy, not charge them too much. I think there's a little holistic marketing that they like of being able, and it's sexy. Moving company owners that, you tell them like, hey, every time somebody visits your website, if Facebook and Instagram can identify them, they're going to get an ad for the next 7 days. Like people are like, it's amazing. And it takes us a couple days and some hours every month to monitor it. So we can do that. So we're adding in new services. That is a conversation. AI in terms of like retention or additional things. We're looking at some of the AI stuff like the SEO auto or whatever, that new thing that's swirling around. I know there's apparently controversy around it. We're looking at that to see if there's some laborish intensive basic stuff. What we're heavily leaning to with AI is leveraging AI for accountability. So we're not necessarily like already leaned into AI with content writing, and we're leaning into AI into continuing push that, like building our own ChatGPT, growing that, having it spit out the right content that we need and not have to pay content writer. So we've already leaned into that. Now we're doing it for accountability. So we have an AI that connects into HubSpot that tracks all of our CSM emails in terms of like, did they follow up? What was the intentionality? What was the pulse on the conversation. Did it end good or bad? To help us in accountability, we're using AI to help us identify accountability on what's been missed on websites. So what we're leaning for right now is a lot more of AI on accountability than doing new types of work.
Yeah.
I'm not Brian Hung over here. I'm not the AI that can have a whole sales department be outsourced. So we're working towards that.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I think that's really important because, we've seen other agencies, I'm sure you've seen other agencies, that accountability is a really big piece of the puzzle that it can easily fall through the cracks. And that ties into your reputation and your integrity and your deliverables. And so I appreciate that greatly, because that's definitely where my head's at. Is I want to do right by my clients. And we've seen SEO companies that just blow and go, and they just wreak havoc as they're collecting income and they're not actually performing. So kudos.
Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
It really, like, I hired a president at the beginning of this year. Probably the best thing. I think we would be far off worse because I was already drained at the beginning of this year. And this year has been nonstop, like just opening every door and being like, we need to get better. This is unacceptable. And what was acceptable a year ago is not acceptable today in our team.
Mhm.
And the hard part is it's draining. Like, anybody on my team's listening, like, they know it's honestly felt draining. But I keep trying to point them to this is needed, or else we are going to lose clients. We're going to decline in revenue. We're going to have to let people go. Like, we have to do this in order to be at the top and to do these deliverables. And I honestly believe we have to do more now for the same price. What that forces us to do now is, how do we be creative? Because we can't do more for the same price. We actually have to figure out what's not actually working in our deliverables so we can get rid of it, so we can add new things.
Exactly.
And it's
yeah, just become more efficient with the same amount of
exhausting.
time.
We have 150 something clients. We've literally gone through hand by hand, one by one, every client, which you think like, oh yeah, that seems normal. Well, it wasn't normal for us. And we have to go hand by hand on every one and go, what's right? What's wrong? How do we win? What needs to be changed? How do we identify that? How do we share that with the customer? And I don't think we really needed to do that 4 years ago. We could have just gone. So.
Yeah. And I think the big thing nowadays too is paying attention to those long-term clients that you might not pay as close attention to because they're doing great. They're getting leads, but when you go back and look and you're like, oh crap, we've lost 30% of traffic. Yeah, they're getting leads, they're happy, but why did we lose this traffic? And you talk about the low-hanging fruit, and I tell people all the time, I said, especially long-term clients, if you're not paying attention to them, and I'm not talking just blogging, I'm talking about metrics and stuff like that. And, I used to get up every day, or there was an algo update, and I'd be in every single client's account trying to figure out anything happened. And I don't do that anymore. Just like, we take a snapshot. I base on trends, basically. Is the trend going up, or at least staying stagnant to where we can make it go up, or is it going down? And and it's something that as your agency grows and your focuses kind of change, you need to make sure your team's paying attention to the stuff that maybe you don't necessarily like. My biggest client, my VIP client, we might go a month before I look at their stuff, but I've got people that are in those positions that I trust that can do that for me.
Yeah.
So we don't put our brand new VAs into our super client bucket.
Which is hard to say though, when it's like, well, every client's important. It's like, well, is every client important? It's like, yes, but they're all paying differently. And so there's a value change. And so how do you set that right on the expectation of the sales call?
Yeah.
Which is hard.
For sure.
And I say all this year was the first year that we've upsold. So many clients. And so there's a lot of low-hanging fruit of just clients who are doing well, who go, I want more. We've lost clients because they wanted more and they were just kind of doing well at where they were at. And I want to say it could be more, it could be less, but $30,000 in upsells just from our client success management department in upsells. Last year we did, I think, $0 or maybe $1,000 last year in upsells. This year was $30,000 in upsells of all clients who go, this is going well, I'd like to do more, I'd like to spend more. And it was a big bomb that went off in my head, because I just think every client, they're at their max budget. They're doing everything they can put into SEO. And it's like, no, some of these clients are like, they've got some room and they've seen results and they're excited to spend some more and see if they can get more results. And so that has been great, because I say do more for the same money, but also on the same side of things, like we've upsold a lot of clients.
Yeah. And I think upsell is important, especially if the client doesn't know what you do. You know, I mean, I've had clients call me up and say, hey, I just hired this pay-per-click company, you know, and I'm like, we do pay-per-click, you know. I had no idea. So yeah, it's super important to make sure that you have those conversations about not necessarily to upsell, but to what else can we do for you?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing X, or have you ever thought about doing Y? Or, you know, we have a great AI video department that we could really do some cool AI video stuff. I mean, just those type of conversations, instead of saying, well, Mr. Client, you know, you had 40 phone calls and 30 form fills and everything's on the upswing. Have a great day. We'll see you next month.
I know. It's frustrating, because we've had people that'll be like, hey, I'm getting a new website built. And it's like,
yeah,
we do websites. Like, why do you not know that? Because we just assume everyone knows what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we really started pounding hard our newsletter system. So at least our clients, you know, and we'll get a few calls a month just because of the newsletter stuff. Oh, I didn't know you guys did this. And so
SEO spring training last year, Gregory Ortiz did that whole thing on the customer newsletter, and that's done well for us. I don't think necessarily it's given us new revenue yet, but it's had a lot of good, healthy conversations with our clients who receive that. I go, well, what are you doing for that? It's like, well, what does this mean? And it just creates a better engagement. So again, plug in for anyone who's not going to SEO spring training. You need to go, because there's some really valuable stuff that gets put on that stage that, you know, again, customer newsletter is not sexy.
No,
it's stuff that'll help.
Well, and it's, you know, because Elisabeth and I are on an agency growth plan, and have been for about almost a year now. But, you know, I really we didn't quite grow as much as I wanted to, mainly because I was trying to get a lot of automations in place before I kind of unloaded the floodgates, so to speak. And
because you haven't hired a salesperson.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the biggest thing, though, for us is the retention. I spent a lot of time on the reporting aspect of it. When I got forced into this industry, the very first thing I told myself is, I'm not going to be that PDF guy that just gives a monthly PDF to the client. You know, I want them to see real data, so they can kind of work with me to help make decisions. They might not want to, which is totally fine, but there is a big part of business owners that once they start getting excited about stuff, they do want to kind of see the data, see what else we could do. Hey, did you know we're getting, you know, X amount of traffic from Facebook? Maybe we should try some Facebook stuff, you know? So, you know, and even still today, I'm working on reporting this afternoon, because it's so important that we have a dashboard that they can log into. 90% of them don't. Totally fine. I don't
98% of them.
You know, but it's there when they want to. They can't ever say to me, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what's going on." Well, here's your username and password. But how do you guys do reporting? Did you set up some type of system? Because obviously your agency's a little bit bigger than mine, and that's always the biggest thing with me is automations on reportings.
I need Garrett on this call to help me figure out what we've done with reporting. We have gone all over the place this year. We got rid of agency analytics because no one would log in, and then it was confusing. And I honestly don't even know what we do with reporting. At least with our clients, we have found that simpler is better. And so we've gone back to the OG, how I originally started. I think we have a Google Doc that we just update of what are the deliverables that were done, what's your ROI, what's the stuff to come. One of the things that we've done very differently this year is it is way more heavy in communication, way more heavy in getting people on the phone call. We say that, but we don't actually do it. I mean, we are trying to push calls, Zoom calls, monthly meetings as much as possible. But I'm pretty sure that we have gotten rid of agency. I know we've gotten rid of agency analytics. I don't know what we've replaced it with, or if we replaced it with anything.
We've been a data studio house forever. And I mean, it's really cool. The reason I like it is because we have basically a online dashboard that people log into. But the data studio build is I can basically probably 47 different pages of data, and most clients are like 5. Here's your calls. Here's your freaking missed calls. I hammer missed calls all freaking day long.
Yeah.
And I've got a realtor that I've been struggling with because he came to me completely crashed, and of course, I told him it's going to take 9 months to a year. Well, we're into it about 5 months now. And I just saw the freaking call log this morning. One person trying to buy a house from him called him 4 times within an hour period. And I'm like, dude, you're killing, you're bitching at me because it's going so slow, but you won't answer your freaking phone. Yeah. And, and that gets so frustrating when, because that's the ultimate goal, is to get the phone to ring or get the emails to come, get something into the pipeline that they can start selling and, doing. But gosh, it's so frustrating. We're actually considering even starting an appointment setting system this year, just because it's, movers, construction, forget my roofers, man. My roofers average a 40% missed call rate. No way. And so one of them is paying $15,000 a month in pay-per-click, and they've got a 70% missed call rate.
And see, that stuff is so hard because we don't track phone calls except if they're doing Google ads with us. Yeah. And I want to track more phone calls because like there's a reality of, I've seen the reality so much of like the businesses that run a good business get good results with us. And the guys that don't run the best business, get subpar results. Not that we can't get them results. It's subpar because they don't have the ability or they're not currently leveraging it. And it's okay. It's just something that they need to know. It's like I had a client who we were like, I don't think your sales guy is doing a good job. They ended up going in, looking at what's happening, getting rid of the sales guy, working part-time, answering the same amount of phone calls themselves, closing at a much higher conversion rate, making more money than they ever have in the last 6 months. And it's like, yeah, like nothing changed in our marketing. You just changed your salesperson in the sales process. And it's hard to talk to somebody about that, though.
It is, and especially a bit, I call them the cocky business owners. And one of the reasons why it's mandatory that you use our phone system. And multiple times, I'll get a gal call me up and say, this just isn't working. We're not getting any calls, or we're not able to set any appointments. And I'm like, okay, well, one of my window companies, well, let's take a look at the call. Let's listen to some calls, from your sales guy. And by the 4th call into it, this guy was giving prices over the phone. Oh, your one window is going to cost $396. Let us know if you want us to come out and take care of that for you. Instead of saying, hey, we want to come to your house, measure all your windows, sell all your windows, not just one. And this owner was just livid. He's like, I've had this guy for a year. And I'm like, dude. And so, yeah, same thing. He fired the guy, brought in actually 3 new salespeople. And his whole world changed. Yeah. But he never freaking realized, until we started listening to the recordings. Let's just see how this guy talks to people. Let's see his process. Because he'll close 2 a week, something, but he's getting 15 calls a day.
Yeah. And it just shows you as agency owners, the more information and the more analytics we can provide to the client to make better decisions, the better and more valuable we are. It's just that's hard and that's expensive, and they need to know the value of their paying. Like the reality is like $500 a month for call tracking sounds super expensive. But then if I say, hey, for $500 a month, we're going to record all your calls, help you understand missed calls, help you understand missed opportunities. Now the $500 a month isn't as expensive. And so it's like, well, now how do we sell that? How do we implement that? And the hard work is in the execution on it.
It also is.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, it is. And it's really industry specific. My med spas, they very rarely have a high missed call rate. They just don't do that. But I was in the moving business with you. I used to fight with my freaking moving companies, and I realized that they're busy, and I realized they might be 1 or 2 weeks out or whatever, but moving's an industry that people shop. You don't typically go to the one call, one person, book your appointment, and you're ready. You typically call 2 or 3, get some referrals like we did with you. And, because it's a big deal, moving's like, I call it it's a very personal niche. I'm not the type of guy that, hey, here's the keys to my house. I'm going to leave for a month and I'll come back and you have everything in my new house. And no, I'm watching my $10,000 sound system in my living room. So, but I think that's the biggest thing is that you've got to have in place those type of educations, especially with moving companies. I call them unsophisticated business owners. They're doing great. Roofers are the same way. I've got a roofing company making millions a year, but everything's still being run out of his mom's kitchen. Mm-hmm. So they're not sophisticated by any means. I ask them for, hey, send me your spreadsheet so we can do some retargeting. Oh, we do everything with ledger books.
But the hard part is like a lot of us are in the same boat. It's like you could call it unsophisticated. It's just you got different levels of type of business running. It's like you can find that in the agent, find that in any space. It's just hard when what they sell is so personal and there is so much going on there and there's so much on the line because they're shopping. It's like every missed call, every incorrect quote, every bad sales call, ends up being a lot of lost revenue. Just like
for sure.
Everything else,
One of my big moving companies, it was one of the first configurator systems I ever built. And I built this configurator system, put in your, square foot, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how many freezers, how many refrigerators, blah, blah, blah. And it would spit out a, kind of a price, a basic starting price. And it was a great process, but this business owner got so freaking lazy. He's just like, I'm not answering my phone. They got to go through that configurator thing you built. I'm like, dude, come on, man. My configurator thing is going to take 15 minutes to fill out.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
I did get an update from Garrett. Our current reporting process is some emails for update and consistent communication, and then mandatory 90-day reviews of and we just manually go through. We have key things that we want them to, it's a little bit more orchestrated of what to point out, what to look at in some of the key things, but it's very much an open book, kind of let's go through this together. And that's been working. It's saved us $2,500 a month on agency analytics, and we've kept up retention. And so I think the whole point on that to share is your reporting is a tool, and it's literally a tool.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's not going to keep your clients longer or anything. Obviously, there's clients that want that reporting, but so anyway, it's a manual process.
No, that's good. So that's a big thing, especially when, I think last year we became more intimate with our clients basically because of the content change we did. We're writing a lot of content, a lot of personalized content. So we really had to my biggest med spa, I had to go back to the sisters and just say, hey, I need to ask you guys some questions. And they've been with me 7 years, and some of the questions I was asking, what's your target audience? What's your target age demographic, which according to data I knew, but I wanted to see what they said. And it's amazing. It was a pretty cool process because of course I know the business, I know the company, I know the product, but I didn't know the personal side of it. Like their kind of goals, I always ask, hey, are you planning on expanding in the next 24 months? But it was really interesting. So as we start building out our chat GPT systems, we really started getting more intimate with our clients because we had to find out some stuff, and excuse me. And it was really kind of an interesting thing because we wanted to
Damn, COVID.
Yeah, really freaking dry Phoenix winter. I think it was like 40 freaking degrees this morning.
That was cold.
So, but no, I love that aspect of what you're doing and everything that you got going. So, tell me about different things that you were doing within the moving industry. Do you see big changes coming within this year? Obviously, interest rates are still sucky. Do you guys kind of keep your hand on the pulse with all that?
We do.
Kind of stuff?
Yeah, I speak a lot in the movie industry, which I've loved. I've enjoyed it a lot, and it's been good for value building. It's been good for getting clients. It's overall a good strategy, and I'm in tune with kind of their pain points. I would say most moving business owners are down. The small ones could be up in revenue because they have opportunities, but there's a lot of them that are down. But again, I would just say that relatively speaking, every market is different. We've got a client who's a big client and up this year. But yeah, we're in tune with the interest rates. We're in tune with their pain points. Biggest changes coming. I think that I think that AI, in terms of the conversations, will be a lot more. I think a lot more moving companies will adapt AI type conversation. And so I think that is going to be something that's big. Like call answering, I think will be a lot more prevalent.
Call answering, chat systems.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's going to take over, but it's going to, people are going to be much more used to it, much more open to using it, and they'll leverage that more. I do think that 2025 will be the first year of like improvement in the moving industry since 2022. That's my prediction. I'm hoping that's the case. I also know that lead attribution, and I think this is for any business. I think that lead attribution will be the number one most critical thing in marketing that moving owners can do, is a legitimately understanding lead attribution. And we have dived deep into that, of like, how can we provide from sticky UTMs and the whole thing. Like we're spending more time making sure they understand UTM and lead attribution, and making sure that that UTM process goes into their CRM and make sure it's gathered correctly. Like we are trying to give as much possibility for the business owner to understand where every lead came from. That's hard. We're going to be continuing to lead and lean more into that. But I think lead attribution is going to be so key. And I don't think it's a software that fixes it. I don't think you can just get a software that just plugs in and there it is. I think it's a manual process, and it's what a marketing person can do that most companies don't have, or the marketing person doesn't have the ability to do that. We're going to try to come in and give that clarity in their marketing as much as possible.
And I think that's awesome. I think is, again, once they start gathering interest on where stuff's coming from, he can have better conversations and, talk about more sophisticated things.
Yeah.
It's been 4 years since I've been in the moving industry, but I never found anybody that had a real CRM. It was just, it was just like a whiteboard and a calendar.
Now a lot of people have CRMs. There's a lot of good CRMs in the moving industry out there. So now it's quite different.
Good. Cause that was one of my big frustrations, because I'm a data guy. I always ask every client we take on, hey, give me some of your data.
Yeah, they don't have it. So then it's like, well, then how do you provide it? And it's like, there's a lot of work now. Yeah. Also, we're trying to go into a new industry this year. So pray for us on that, because it seems like it would be so easy. And yet I'm like gun shy, but we are going to try to, we're not even choose one industry. We just want to take on some more different clients in different industries. And we know we're going to do well. We're going to just see which is the type of clients that we're looking for.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'll never be 100% medical spas, just because I like other industries, but Elisabeth does websites for everybody. But but then again, I get caught. One of my biggest medical spas, her husband is a lawyer. I decided to take him on, and I'm not having fun with this one, just because it's one of those things. But again, you just have to say, yeah, sure, happy to help you.
What you can do is you can send them our way. We'll take over the account, and then everything that goes well, we'll be like, yeah, we did that. And then everything that goes south and not well, I'd be like, Terry, man, Terry doesn't know what he's doing,
Yeah, for sure. So, but it's fun. So, but so you're coming to spring training. Super excited to have you. Awesome. Are you going to are you in Patrick's event also in Orlando?
Yes, I'm going to go to that as well.
Yep, me too.
Which I'm excited for as well. And I actually think, I don't think it's confirmed yet, but I think we're going to bring somebody who got their visa, one of our top SEO guys, bring them out with my head of operations, director of operations, and so might bring some people.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So that'd be great. So anyways, Elisabeth, do you have any last minute questions? Anything at all? Anything?
No.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on here. Oh, hold on. I got to edit my code. It has edit my thing here.
Did you guys do your 2024 review and 2025 goals yet, or not yet?
We're getting ready. Actually, I was talking to Patrick yesterday. We're going to wait on the goal side until after Patrick's event. So, because we did that last year, we did them before, and then we redid them again after Patrick's event. So, like this time, we're just going to wait for. And I told him, I said, you should have had it in January instead of.
Well, one of the things that Terry and I were talking about. Hold on, I echo.
Yeah, you have an echo.
One of the things that we were talking about is after the event, like we were just rush to get back home and flights and this and that. And we're hoping to just take an extra day after it to just kind of sit, reevaluate, reabsorb. Because, going to those events, it's drinking through a fire hose.
Yeah.
And it's so much information and you want to do everything all the time, all at once. And it's just too much to integrate. So we want to sit and have a discussion over what's the most strategic steps that we can make this week.
Yeah.
And then break that up. So that's definitely some of the things we want to do.
I think it's so key because there is so much. We even do it too. And you really have to just sit back after that, get that one day, and then really just like choose like 3 things. And then it's easy to choose 3 things and it's kind of easy to choose a date, but then it's like breaking down what it's going to be involved to get there and do that. And then making sure the dates are realistic. And then the final key is that accountability and all of that. And then putting the tracking in place. And it's so easy to say, it literally takes like 3 things could take like 8 hours just going through like exactly how it's going to be broken down. What are the due dates? What kind of KPIs are we going to track to make sure we're on target for that and on track for that? How are we going to track that? Who's going to be responsible? It's kind of a lot. But I find that every time we do that, it makes it so clear of like, all right, this is it. Like above all things, podcast, this, that, cool thing I want to try here. I have to get this done.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's because I mean, obviously we're a couple, so we go off and do this stuff. Do you work with your president, or how do you, when you go to these things and want to implement stuff, do you work with him, or do you work with a couple key people on the staff, or how do you guys implement different things?
Not your wife.
Talk about.
Yeah, it's not my wife. My wife, she knows we do something with Google, and that's about it. She likes it like that, and I like it like that. And I wish she would want to be more involved, but she does the homeschooling, she does everything else. And so in terms of like our structure and how we do that, I've got what I call like a core, and I hate using the word core, but ultimately it's the core leadership team. It's me, my president, and then my director of operations, which is, his name is Travis as well, Travis Cole. And us 3 will meet every other week, going through the most important things we need to go through. What are the valuable things that we need to work, discuss, hash out, get done? And so when I go to these events, I take it back and I bring it to them. And if they see that there's value, we discuss it, then we implement that as well. And then we try to meet once every 6 months. We're meeting on like a whole like looking back thing. And then every month we're looking back at like, what are the goals? What do we need to set up? What are the tracking? But it's us 3. And then we have our leadership team, which is kind of the leads team of everyone, but that is not as much involved. What we've done this year that I really liked is, instead of setting random goals, we really went through department by department and went like, what do we believe with the people we have, with the opportunities that are above us? What can we do with this department? And then we took all these departments, put them together, forecasted that out over 2025. And we said, this seems realistic and we can do this. And that helped us then achieve what we wanted financial goals to be. In the past, I would just arbitrarily choose a financial goal: increase by 50% in net profit, increase by 30% in revenue, or whatever it is. And so I really like that process of doing that. So yeah, all those decisions are done. It's a very, we're not married, but it's a very highly communicative relationship between my president and I.
That's cool.
All this stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we're just like Elizabeth said, we're going to probably stay a day or 2 after the event just to kind of still be there. Maybe even
finalize everything.
Yeah. Maybe even go to Universal Studios and
I think I might be speaking on sales stuff too. So
cool.
I spoke at it at Chris's event, the Agency Freedom Live event. And it was a lot of great feedback. People liked the transparency and the rawness of it, but it was a lot. So I got to figure out how to break it down to simple stuff.
Cool. Good deal. So no, I'm looking forward to it for sure. So any last minute questions, Elizabeth?
We got to get on the same flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Same flight, and then freaking, we gotta find. Patrick still hasn't told me when we can actually go into the house. So
I know. Well, I text him right now and tell him, look, take a photo of us and say we're all wondering when.
Don't tell him that, because Terry will take out his phone and do it right now.
Do it. Yeah,
So-
I'm excited. I'm excited for his event, going to his event, and then SEO spring training. That's going to be the 2 SEO events that we're probably attending that are SEO specific this year.
Yeah, we're going to growth building event. So, yeah, I took it. So, but yeah, we're going to. I mean, we're all about growth. So last year I only spoke at like 6 events last year. I'll probably even do even less this year. I just like being here and getting the shit together.
Yep.
Yeah. Once it's together, and then I can, my whole goal is to get, or Elizabeth's goal is to get me out of the agency life this year, so I can do.
Ooh, that's a good goal.
That's a big one, and then that way I can still focus on my affiliates and lead gens and AI and all the stuff that I like to absorb myself into. So
is she doing that because she's helping your dream come true, or because she's trying to kick you out and say, hey, you can't mess with my stuff anymore?
No.
Well, I think over the holidays, I've completely redone my entire schema template process. My schema now is just like, she's on steroids. And I like that type of stuff. I like sitting behind a computer and just doing shit. I don't like the calls. I don't like the, I got to make a decision over this one or this one. I just want to do my thing.
So it came about because fulfillment is something that is teachable. And how about that if Terry doesn't have a class on how to do technical on-page SEO?
Yeah.
So our team is really strong right now. We've really kind of refocused on making sure that they are super solid for fulfillment. And he loves it, but he needs to be doing the creative things and the things that will, inspire him more. So I can teach and train somebody to do the basic fulfillment stuff. He doesn't need to be doing it, even though it's fun for him,
He can come in and be the accountability and then take it to the next level on the clients that need it. Yeah.
Correct.
And does he do the sales call? So as part of taking him out of agency life is finding some salesperson to help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and I'm sure in the beginning you probably didn't do as much as we've done, but for probably the first 7 years, our agency was just Terry and I, no VAs. So we have worn all the hats. We have done all the things, and that's why I manage my own servers. I build websites. He does all of the SEO. So we're used to running really lean, and
beautiful.
So we need to work on the business, not in the business, which is what every major agency owner tells you. And when you've been doing it for so long, that's where the challenge is.
Yeah. Well, that's also your greatest strength. It's also your greatest strength because you know what it looks like to be good or bad, and so you can manage that a lot better from afar than someone like me who I couldn't tell you what a server good or bad it looks like, or what a properly installed schema looks like, and so it's really hard for me to manage from afar because I don't know what good looks like. We have standards. I mean, we know it, but I couldn't look at it. I have to rely on other people to be truthful and in the presenting of the data to tell me whether it's good or bad. I can just play devil's advocate of I'm going to pretend I'm the client and this doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to get out of it when you enjoy it. I like on page. I like teaching on page. Should I be doing on page? Hell no, I shouldn't be doing freaking on page.
But you like teaching it too. So that's
yeah.
And the nice part is when you bring someone on, you can teach them that too, and then they become a huge.
We run our employees through his course, so he has the on-page course and the schema course, and So
and the live class, which is weeks away.
So we make sure our employees know based on what he's teaching, not what they may have learned from somewhere else. Because not everybody does it the same way. There's no standards in our industry.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the downside of that is there are no standards, and so everyone can be an SEO specialist, and there's no standard to say like you had this certification or you had this experience or whatever it is. We are leaning a lot more into on-page this year. I mean, we started doing it last year and we're leaning even more on it this year. We know there's benefit. We see the value. We see the value of spending more manual labor time on each website. We're trying to lower our cost of guest posts. I know that between last year, everyone's like, you're spending way too much money on that. And it's worked, but we see that it doesn't need to be there. And so we're leaning into how do we do better on page? How do we create more content so that we don't need to do as many guest posts? And I'm excited for that process, because when you lean into the on page and all that good stuff, and the training increases, like you just become better overall.
Oh,
well, that's going to kind of lead into Terry has an on-page class coming up. Why don't you run your team through that? And, he's worked with other agencies as well to try to give them a lot more foundational skills and knowledge. So it's an
I love that. Send us that stuff, because I think one of the things that we want to do more is more training of just like, here's another perspective. Here's another way to look at it. Like that way no one can come back and be like, well, I don't know on page that well. It's like, well, you've got all the training to learn and do better and be better here.
Yeah. Well, our class includes all the videos and even has VA ready SOPs. So as you hire people, you can put them right through my class again.
Oh yeah. You should send that stuff to me.
So, we're doing it for a lot of agencies because it's one central standard that, everybody can learn and follow, instead of, oh, I learned this over in Signals Lab and I learned this over in, whatever. So
random Facebook group.
Yeah. I still think SEO is still one of the greatest assets to have in an agency, because everybody does it in the agency space, but nobody does it well. And so if you just start doing a little bit more better than everyone else, you're going to keep clients longer. You have the best ROI on SEO services. Like, you see these social media, like TikTok company agencies come and go. They're low margins. There's a lot of work. They have to give the crazy guarantees. Like, SEO is hard, and therefore you can charge more for it and make a better return. And it's like the agencies that I know that are quick money, and then the agency doesn't do very well, are the ones that are really built off like selling the dream, not knowing how to execute, selling social media and paid ads. Not that those don't have a place. It's just if that's all your entire business is off of, it's hard.
For sure. 100%. So all right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Mr. T, for meeting with us. Let's go to lunch soon. I've got to go to our sushi place.
Yeah, I'm ready for the sushi place. I have a 16-day cut I'm doing, and then I'll be free.
Right on. Cool. Well, let me know when you're done with your cut, and then we'll go to lunch and catch up a little bit. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Subscribe and do all the fancy stuff that you're supposed to do to these things. And
subscribe, follow, share.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Exactly.
And we will see everybody next Monday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And thank you all.
Thank you, guys. It was good seeing you and nice chatting with you guys.
You're definitely always nice. So see you soon.
Bye, guys.